Hi and welcome to Shadow of the Dragon. This is my test for you folks at No Breaks Games. First of all, I'm showing you the map around right now. I obviously blocked up an area very quickly and decided on a shape. I went for this kind of S approach as opposed to an open world sort of plain area where they could explore the area, just for time's sake. Originally I had it in sort of a C shape, but I opted for this way instead. So started off with some basic platforming just to direct the player towards the weenie, which would be the dragon, the kind of landmark they can see, and then they come across their first kind of obstacle, which I use the flooring to sort of guide the player there, so there's like an obvious kind of area to suggest you can drag that creep that statue out of the way, which opens you up into the first room, which shows you a locked door, directing the player's eyesight to where they need to go, an obvious switch where the player can see the door being opened and closed, and then providing the puzzle that they've just reaffirming the mechanic they've just picked up with the statue. They use this to progress. Obviously it took a bit of fiddling to get the kind of weight right on those, and there's still a bit more work to be done to create more of a better sliding mechanic for pushing and pulling objects there. Note the axe on the floor here. This is a little kind of secondary thing I put into this level. So this second area, as you can see, there's an area cordoned off on the bottom to suggest the area you can move the boxes, these statues around in. The stairs illustrate the kind of direction of where the player could go, as can the gap in the pillars. This is also reaffirmed by the direction of light coming into the building. So in this section, the player would have to just but position the statues in such a way that they can traverse across to this ledge and progress. Now, the axe in the previous room offers a sort of secondary objective, or secondary route, to how the player can progress. And this is one of the things I think that gives Human Fall Flat its uniqueness. Is not just the physics-based puzzles, which is what it's kind of known for, but the actual rewarding the aesthetic of exploration. So in this case, where the player can just rearrange these statues and create a path, the player can also go back and grab the axe and discover a secondary route to progress with. And this would reward player exploration for having a look around and see what they can interact with. So as you can see, the axe has a rigid body, you can carry it. In the corner here, illustrated is a sort of rock with a pillar, and you can crawl under this space and find a breakable wall. Given a bit more time, I would have probably tried to make this a little bit more secretive, rather than just hide behind a rock, but the gist of it is there. So this is one of the things I wanted to build upon in the interview, which was camera angles are definitely something that could be improved upon, whether providing a fixed camera position in places like that, so it's like top down, so the player can progress. But as you can see, that opened up a whole other route for the player to progress across falling islands. In this case, I'll go the normal way that was constructed first. So, they add a bit of decor here, and the player can't quite fit through these gaps, so it's pushing the player in the direction they need them to go. They head over the platforms and drop onto the balcony, which then provides a kind of vista over they can see where they came from, they can see the secondary route, and they can see where they're going to. This all pushes them in towards the very end, which is where the statue is. So this is a little one of mine I did in the previous map I made, which are these pole vaults. I just find them really fun. They add to the physics of the game. It's something that's even enjoyed in multiplayer a lot. So then they come across this little town, which provides a bit more kind of description towards the story of this area, which is, it's a valley of a town that ended up worshipping a dragon that was living under a volcano. So here we go in this next area. As you can see, there's quite a unique sort of asset in the sense of this pillar with the dragon on top of it. So the player can take a look around. The path kind of directs them round to these three set of switches, and they can see the far end island goal in the distance. So the player might, out of curiosity, stand on one of these switches to see what happens, and this raises a platform from the lava for which to cross. However, if they stand off this button, the platform will lower. So it's a simple kind of switch solution where you've got to find three objects to sit on. Obviously, with 4 players, this could be very easily bypassed. I think something I would like to do is sink them into the switches into the ground with a certain size, where maybe either something the player can retrieve can fit under it, or it has a special detection like the lock and key, which I probably would have done with more time. So here the player can see that they can get into that room while triggering a switch, and they already have access to one of the statues already. So these I wish I'd play tested around a bit more. They are to act like the statues beforehand, but they are very easily to topple over. The player can simply just lift them gently and drag them around. Again, having a bit more testing time to get this sliding mechanic better would have been ideal. So then this opens the door, to which they can get this one with a platform on it, which is then that player might take that to the very end, but they might realise that they'd need this platform to get to the blue statue. So in here, this area here, you can't jump this gap normally, so you would drag the statue with the platform into place. And again, the stairs and the balcony above illustrates the kind of direction of where the player is to progress. So the player then can climb up here, onto the top of the stairs, onto the platform, and jump across to the platform. From here, they can just simply do a few jumps, and they can get to the blue statue, at which they can just push off or pull off the edge and onto the switch. As you can see, I just drop it on its side. It still works as a weight. It's got enough mass to hold the switch down, so drop that on there. Oops. And then the player can go retrieve the others and place them on the other switches as well. This would in turn raise all 3 platforms for the player to progress. So the main reason for sort of designing the puzzle in this way is that the first mechanic of like pushing and pulling the statue block that's blocking your way is to kind of build up that sense of here's the mechanic for this level. And then there's the room that follows it straight away that reaffirms what you're supposed to do. You can use the statues, you drag and onto them switches to solve a puzzle. And then the second puzzle room with the multiple platforms to move around and traverse. That illustrates what you can do with some of them. You can use them as traversal mechanics. You can use them as a way of getting across the level. And then this one kind of brings it all together. This is the kind of almost final puzzle. This rewards the player for exploring the area. They can find out what they need to find. They explore the area, find the items that they need, what they need to use to get to the next area. But it also provides a bit of scenery and exploration to play around in. Obviously, if they came the other route, there is a set of falling platforms and a chain swing, which brings them into the tower nearby. But ultimately, it all leads to the same checkpoint where the players can congregate and try and figure out this next stage. So that's the third stone dragon pillar on there. And as you can see, it rises out of the lava and it gives the player a path to go. I think this part is probably the traversal part here is a little too easy, but it illustrates the kind of mechanic I was going for. Was using these switches with a raising platform, multiple platforms maybe, or even kind of a bit more of a difficult puzzle platformer there would have been interesting, to try and do maybe timers on them so they only weigh it down for so long. It's something that could be done at a longer level. So this comes into the final part of the level where you see the secret of the level, which is just some dragon eggs sitting in a little neat nest of lava, and the statue that you've seen from the very start. This reaffirms the whole idea that you see a weenie and it's like, I want to get there. These landmarks that you see that kind of provides a direction to the player. So at this point, the player can mess about. This is the end level. Drops in the lava, obviously causes them to respawn. And this is where I decided to put the pass trigger. I was actually debating on putting a pass trigger in the ground, where the player would be able to just fall into almost a cave, which would then lead into a second level there. So then the player is free to explore, just see what the rest of the level is, and they're given this nice little bridge to overlook what they've accomplished and what they can do next, or what they could do again. So this shows them the secondary route if they hadn't already do it, or they can just jump off. So this is my first level. It's called the Illusion Path. This was mainly me just playing around with the Human Fall Flat level editor software in Unity. So in this case, I went for the kind of choke point design in level design, which is very linear, but also kind of directing the player with doorways, arches, that sort of thing. It focuses the player's eyes on the direction of the map. So in this case, there's obviously this first destructible door, but then the arches and all of the platforms moving into each other, which is a very narrow design, doesn't give a lot of freedom of choice, but it does give the player the ability to sort of like just get to the end of the level in objective way. But this one, I really wanted to test a puzzle mechanic, which was the idea of using some blocks that I didn't have any collision on. So this first part was just a challenging traversal, which actually provided being one of the most hardest things in the game to do, as you can see by my failed attempts. But yeah, these set of swings bring you over to the first set of puzzles, which is the main theme for this. So I like the Shadow of the Dragon, the one I've submitted for you. This one had a starting mechanic in which the player would have to look at the ground and see that green is good, it's solid, and there was no collision, unfortunately, in the red ones. This obviously is quite easy for most players to see at the start. Wouldn't take more than a couple of seconds for someone to realise, and then they easily traverse to the second stage. At this point, they're given a bit more of a different challenge, where all of them are red, and the clue was on the wall. I thought about trying to do something similar to this, but with a handheld version of the map, so the player had to carry it with them, and that's something I might work on in the future. But yeah, here we can see an extension of the test here, where you can see that on the wall you can work out the path to progress. So yeah, it follows the sort of basic principle of giving a player something to learn and then having them practice it. But then I think the larger scale maps, you could combine these sort of mechanics. So the Shadow of the Dragon map and this map could end up combining some sort of mechanics where you have invisible platforms to find, or you have some way of maybe triggering them so they appear and disappear. So it makes more of a challenge for the player that they have to remember multiple mechanics. And this is what I like about the larger levels, which is the levels that you publish, especially for the kind of what makes a human fall flat level puzzle, is that the fact that the player's given usually multiple ideas multiple ways to explore the level. They usually can figure things out, especially with multiplayer now. They can figure things out quicker, or they can find sort of ways to get around the puzzle. We're using two people to maybe pull open a door or such. But this is something I think that it lends itself to, is that although the physics is the physics is comical, and it also provides a number of ways to create these great puzzles, but the exploration in the areas is really where the entertainment comes from. Giving the player that freedom to explore and figure out how they would do the puzzle themselves. I think this is something that I would like to experiment in a larger map, is giving the players these options that they have multiple ways to do things, and just seeing how each user journey differs. But yes, thank you.